All right. As you can see, I'm starting another project here. This is a second-hand 3D printer, and it is a Ultimaker 2 clone. It does have an Ultimaker board and display and some other odds and ends parts, I think. So I think whoever did that, I don't know if they got this as a kit and got the board and everything separate, or they got the Ultimaker, the board and the display, and then just pieced everything together themselves. I don't know, but there's a few things I want to do first, and I do this because I do have a number of like Ender 3s. I have a couple of them that I had gotten secondhand also, so there's a few things I do whenever I get a used or a secondhand printer in. There's a few things I do before I power up and start printing with it. So, well, let me give you a close-up of what I got here. Well, there it is, and you can see I took the floor off of it, and I took the glass bed off of it also. Now, the glass bed, when I first got it in, I mean, it was just caked on with glue. It just had a lot of the, I mean, it was just on there so thick. So I went and cleaned off the glass, and I took off the bottom plexiglass so that I can see down in here, and everything looks okay, and of course, smelling it, I don't smell anything like it's burned up or anything like that. So the guy, sounded legit. He was just, giving it away on Craigslist. Well, I wouldn't say giving away, but he was getting rid of it on Craigslist. So the first thing I did, and you can see there's my dirty rag and an old toothbrush. So I went through and cleaned out everything. It had obviously been sitting for quite a while, and a lot of dirt, dust, and whatever else was on everything. I don't know when the last time this was used, but so far it actually looks like a pretty decent little machine, and I just wanted one so that I can play around with the Core XY. That's one I do not have at the moment, and so it'll give me something to play with, see how it prints off. I was kind of surprised. It has a Raspberry Pi with it, and taking a close look at it, it looks like it's a Raspberry Pi 3, and everything is hooked up and ready to go, so I can run Octoprint on it. There's no camera with it. I think a camera will work on the Raspberry Pi 3. I'm not sure. I have one over here. It has a Raspberry Pi 4, and it does. I know the camera will work on it, but we'll see. Oh, there's some LED lights. I just saw that. And is that the only strip on there? Nope, there's one on this side too. Okay, so there's an LED strip going down the front two posts. What else? Usually when I get something in, I clean it up pretty good, and then I start checking connections, right? I want to make sure everything is tight, there's no wobbling. Like this one of these Ender 3s, I believe it was this one here. I got it from a guy fairly cheap. And he started as a hobby and just gave up on it, but then he said he just never could get any good prints. But when I looked at it, when I got it home and looked at everything, he did not have the X carriage. It wasn't adjusted properly, so it was just wiggling around. So whenever he's trying to print, it's the nozzle's just all over the place. What else? The post coming up here was loose. I mean, he just didn't put it together correctly. But other than that, everything else worked great. And once I cleaned it off and tightened everything up, made sure it was assembled correct, it's been printing like a champ. And I hope Yeah, that other one over here, I forgot about this. I'd gotten it from a guy and he just gave up on it. And he had upgraded quite a bit on it, right? You know, it was an Ender 3 Pro, and he put a TFT display on it, a new board. Probably the Green Tree Tech board on it, quieted it down, put, you know, upgraded the extruder, the aluminum there. What else? I forget. He was having trouble with it, and he thought it was the power supply, so he got another Meanwell power supply, but it kept doing the same thing. And he just gave up on it and got one of the Prusa minis, and he's been happy with it. But when I started taking this around and cleaning it up, like I said, while I'm cleaning it up, I'm inspecting everything. It turns out his heating bed was shorting over by the board, and so when I reseated the power going to the bed, it's been working like a charm. Because before he would start printing and then it would just stop, you know, after a few seconds, or you know, he just never could figure it out, never could troubleshoot it. But it turns out it was just a bad connection on the heating bed. And it's been running great. All three of these. I mean, that one I actually, you know, paid full retail for. But all three are almost identical now. They've all been upgraded, and they're doing great. So now I'm working on this. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go through. I've cleaned everything off, and I've been inspecting everything while I'm going. You know, I'll check the belts, make sure they're tight, make sure they're not stretched or coming apart somewhere. You check all your drive pulleys and all that good stuff. Make sure there's no missing teeth. I mean, what else? The corners look to be solid, but I'll go through and double check, make sure everything is tightened down. And after that, I'll be ready to power it up and see what's going on. Maybe do a test print. I'll do some movement, make sure XY is moving great, make sure the heater, make sure the hot end is working correctly, fans, just everything, right? And then I'll do a test print. So, well, let's prepare it, and we'll see what happens. Yeah, and the first thing I noticed, they all seem kind of loose. The side ones were tight. This whole top one was kind of loose there. Yeah, this one too. I'm going to go all the way around after seeing this. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that... But then again, you know, I don't know the history of this. I really don't know how many hours or how many prints he's done. How long has it been since he did any prints? I have no idea. Well, that's interesting. So, I'm just going to go through and check every connection here, and I'll tune back in when I'm done. I guess I'm ready to plug it in and see what happens. Hopefully it's not going to fry on us, right? I was noticing this too. Can you see all the... So it's the Bowden tube setup, but man, that's an awfully long tube. He's got it all the way coming across and then all the way back. And with these cables, you know, I think I would rather run these cables on this side along with the Bowden tube and shorten it up. I'd even take a good foot off of that, you know. But I'll do that in a minute. Let's plug this puppy up. Power up. Ultimaker. Print material, let's see. Maintenance build plate. I have no idea what this, so this has some kind of a, the LCD's kind of messed up. Lower build plate, raised build plate. Man, that's noisy, isn't it? So the LCD is really hard to read. I don't know if you can see that. Let me give you a up close. Yeah, so you can see how garbled that looks. I have to look underneath to see what's coming up. Let's go back to the top. So LED settings. Oh, there we go. Well, that's actually pretty cool. Gives us some great light. Always on, always off. On while printing. Okay, return. Well, that's cool. So when it starts printing, that light will come on. Heat up nozzle. Nozzle temperature 18. Click to return. Well, let's get this sucker up here. Let's go up to what? Let's go up to about 180. Just enough for the filament to heat up properly. So 160, so it's heating up pretty quick. I hear a fan that came on already. Looks like it's starting to ooze out of there. Can you see it? And I think I saw the spool that he was using. It looks like he was using the PLA carbon fiber in Hatchbox, which is great. Hatchbox I've used a lot. That's what I've been using there. But he said he really liked, in the machine, liked the PLA carbon fiber. So that was interesting. Well, I pulled that out. I guess I'll go ahead and where's the feed? Here it is. So I think I'm going to set this down and pull the filament out, and I'll keep playing with these settings here. So far everything looks great, right? I'll go ahead and heat the bed up also. Let me put the camera back up. Oh. Repeat this step, but now use a sheet of paper to fine-tune the build plate. Wow. Well, so far it's pretty cool. So I'm just going to go through and reset everything, and I guess we'll try the first print. But given that the amount of glue that I had to clean off of this, I'll probably have to put some down and make sure it's going to stick on this first print. and I'll probably do that calibration cube, the 20 by 20 square, but I'll be back after I level this off. Alright, so everything is set. One thing I didn't see was like presetting. I just chose PLA. I don't know what the factory settings are for PLA on this. And what else? I guess that was it. Right now it's just heating everything up. Yeah. And I don't know what the settings are for that. I'm just waiting for it to kick in. And when I noticed when I fed the filament through here, I didn't check the nozzle size. It seems kind of large to me, but we'll find out. I'm just going to do a test print that calibration cube. And probably some that comes out is probably still going to be the black. And it's not giving me any kind of status or anything. It just says heating up. Oh, there we go. Time left 20 minutes. Nothing is coming out of the nozzle. Yeah, it's not coming out of the nozzle that well at all. So I'll let this run for a little while and see what happens, but I'll probably take this down, switch the nozzle if I have to. I'm not sure what size is on there. It's like it's not really coming out of the the extruder that well. And you can see this fan is just cutting on and off. The other one's doing just fine. There we go. So far it looks like we need to check the nozzle, check the extruder, and check that fan. But yeah, this doesn't look like there's any filament coming out. And I don't know if this is adjustable here. And I really don't know what temperature that is set to. So I might go ahead and stop it and check into all that. Alright, so I switched the nozzle out. It looks more like a 4mm. I think it was at least a 6 that he had on there. Just doesn't seem to be flowing through the nozzle. I wonder if I'm too close to the build plate. Well, a lot of adjustments need to be done. I'm trying to see if I hear any vibrations or anything. On this side it sounds like there's some clicking or vibrations going on. This side feels okay. Well, that's what I'm hearing. It sounds like it's coming from this one, and you can see some material poking out. So I hope this isn't damaged. The rest of them look okay. But I just need to find out why it's not coming out of the hot end well enough. When I feed it through, it seems like it's coming out just fine. So, well, I'll stop this print. Let's see if we can troubleshoot it. Well, I'm still working on this Ultimaker 2 clone, and let me show you what I came up with. Because you can see after, I cleaned it up, tightened everything up, checked everything out, and here are the main points. I did get some oil to oil down these rods and make it a little easier, for the bearings, make sure they're okay. Well, this I already corrected. If you recall, all this stuff was coming out of this corner. Well, it was wrapping around the corner and then back over. I was like, so I rerouted these wires and the Bowden tube and was able to, I took that much of it off. I mean, that was the longest Bowden tube I'd ever seen, and it's still pretty long now, but that's how much I took off of there. Amazing, huh? And I could probably even shorten it a little more by moving the extruder motor up a little bit, but it's only, it'd only be an inch and a half difference, so we'll just leave it like that. So I did a test print, and you see how thin everything is coming out. And I was like, well, is the nozzle clogged, all that good stuff? Well, you can see I had replaced the nozzle with a 0.4. I think it was a 0.6 that was on there. I cleaned everything out. It was a fresh cut on the Bowden tube that went down. And when I heat it up and manually feed it through, and it's flowing great. But when I tried to print, it's just barely letting any filament through, and I can feel it here on the little wheel. It's just barely moving and real choppy at that. So I wanted to check out the motor, and it's like, well, I went through the menu here, and I can see where I can it gives you the option to adjust the current going to the stepper motors, and they seem kind of high, 1200 milliamps, so 1.2 amps going to each motor, and that's compared to like on these enders, I think they're 550 or 570 or something like that. So it's half of what's being sent here. But it didn't give me any control over checking out the steps, the steps per millimeter or whatever. So I can't calibrate anything. It was like, well, if I calibrate, I wanted to see, shoot this out, 50 millimeters. Is it really coming out 50 millimeters? Is this really traveling 10, 20, 30 millimeters, whatever? Just can't do it. And the more I dug into it, it looks like up to the Ultimaker 2 models, they give you a really limited control on the material. When I try to set, let's see how to explain this. So all the material, even on Cura, when I'm trying to set the the temperature for the nozzle and the bed. Nope, it's controlled by this. You know, they're telling you it's controlled on your printer, and it's automatic. You know, they just don't give you anything. I can't adjust the flow rate. I can't adjust the temperature, all that good stuff. Now there's ways to get in there. I guess you have to get on the G code, and where it gives the option, you know, before and after the print, when you're configuring your printer, you can add all this G code that gives you it'll let you change, you know, the current, and I'm supposing that you can change the nozzle temperature and the bed temperature. But it seems like such a long way to go around it, and I don't know if I want to do it that way. So what I was thinking when I'm looking at this machine, you know, I didn't do my research. I just saw it pop on Craigslist for cheap, and boom, I just went and got it. And just thinking Ultimaker, okay, it's going to be a Core XY. Well, the Ultimaker 2 is not a pure, you know, Core XY. You have your separate X and Y motors. So it's more like Ender 5, you know. And that being said, it's like, well, I was kind of looking forward to doing a Core XY. It's something, I've never owned one. I wanted to play with it. But this one, since it's more like an Ender 5 now as far as your tracking goes, and the X and Y motor controls, I think I'm not too I'm not too stuck with, you know, having an Ultimaker board and the Ultimaker display, which, by the way, you saw earlier, the display is kind of messed up when you start flicking around. It just really the LEDs are just kind of off. They'll get scattered, and it's really hard to read what's going on. So I started thinking, and I have a bunch of all these old parts, and I know I had upgraded my Ender 3s, and one of them, it belonged to a gentleman that had already upgraded and everything. So but I did all these so that they would match. Well, I ended up with a lot of spare parts, right? And this one, it's a Big Tree Tech, the E3 RRF version 1.1 or 1.2. I can't read it. But this is what he had on his machine, and the biggest thing, so it had the antenna for Wi-Fi and everything. And as far as I know, it's still good, right? If not, I still have plenty of these stock boards for the Ender 3 Pro, right? But this one I would like to use because it has the 2209 stepper drivers on it, so it'd be a silent board. And this is a stock display off of Ender 3 Pro. So I think it would be an easy swap. I can just swap the board and make a casing for the display and set it out here, and I'd be good to go, right? Since this is not a Core XY, then, well, why not? That way I'd have full control on the firmware and be able to calibrate and check everything I want. With this Ultimaker, they made it kind of tough to do that. So, sorry Ultimaker, but maybe one day if I have an Ultimaker 3 or newer, then I'll stick with it. But so, that being said, I am going to swap out the boards. I'm going to get the parts in for the bearings here, replace those, and I want to see something about the bed too. Well, we'll see how it goes with the glass bed. I want to see if there's another option where I can put a, you know, PEI plate on there or something. Plus, this one still has the Raspberry Pi. I believe it's a Raspberry Pi 3 that I can hook through. So it wouldn't actually be that bad of a machine with these little small repairs going on. And at least I'll be able to see what's going on with the extruder motor. Do I need to adjust the steps on it? Is it a bad motor? I don't know yet. So I guess that's it. I'm going to get started on this. And I'm debating whether to start a new video, because basically what I just showed you everything is how to check everything once you get a used machine in, and what to look for, you know, including, you know, my Ender 3s over here that I had worked on, and they're running great now. This one, you can see the parts coming in, and after cleaning up, you see what needs to be fixed, what needs to be checked, and options for swapping out components, especially the board and the display and all that good stuff. So, well, I guess that's it for this video. Kind of an intro into the next video coming up. I just didn't want to make it too long, you know. So I guess be sure to like, subscribe, and watch for this next video coming up. It'll be pretty soon. I'm gonna swap out these boards and hopefully get the new bearings in pretty quick, and we'll start checking it out. All right, so we'll see you soon.